Hello, this is Rob Jensen with Avant-Garde College Prep Services, and here I'm bringing a video to you about being able to better understand the SAT score reports that which we will be delivering, and helping you in your assessments of your progress, and just as well as how you can utilize these reports to the best of your advantage, and helping to improve your SAT test prep efforts and things. So the purpose of these reports is, one, is to help you understand your progress of things. Helping you to better understand, how you're proceeding in the various areas and the sections of the SAT, and then also kind of taking it down and breaking it further and really understanding kind of to a root and ground level how you're performing with certain types of questions, certain parts of the test of things. And so we've gone through and have labeled every single problem within that, and you can kind of see just within this first heading of this score report, within the reading section, you can see the answer response that you've given here, the correct answer, and then also the type. And so this type is really useful to understanding the individual questions for that. The other thing is to kind of help you understand the strengths and your weaknesses that exist within the test. Being able to see what areas for which you're doing quite well with. In this particular breakdown, we can see the types of questions of things, and you can see with this particular student, some sections went a little bit better than others, and you can kind of get a sense of that. You can better understand and kind of get a feel for that, and wanted to help you to also to really become quite aware of how you're moving through the test, the sort of questions that you're coming upon, and being able to really recognize and diagnose those. I think that's really key to doing exceptionally well on this test, is really understanding what you're looking at and what they're trying to get at, and you're trying to solve an answer of things. The other thing is how to sort of allocate your time and things. We understand that you're very busy. You're all very studious individuals and such, ones that are active, involved in your school and the community of things, and certainly you've got your own personal life and such. And so within that, you may not have all the time in the world to sit there and study. And if you have 30 or 45 minutes, then you can say, oh well, looking at the reading of sorts, I can see within the sort of passages that I'm struggling with, that these natural science ones, I need to go back and really kind of investigate those a little bit closer. And that's something you can do to take one step forward, talking about that deliberate practice and getting better in an intentional way of trying to become stronger in certain areas of things. And same thing here is, if you're looking at individual question types, you can see the command of evidence that this individual scored 6 of 3. Missed 3 of the 9 questions of things, and so being able to, and it's a larger portion of the types of questions you see, to do well in those. And so you want to be able to allocate your time, being able to understand what type of question this is, so when you come across it, you can go back and look, and you can see the COEs that are here. You can see there's COE here, COE here, COE here, and so you should start getting some sort of familiarity with those types of questions as soon as you see them and recognizing what they are, the things. And so there's that, and there's looking at the writing of sorts, and how it's broken down, the different types of questions for which it has is too. One thing I will mention is kind of seeing if you have any compression of sorts. And what I mean by compression is this individual missed 11 problems here of things, and then you can kind of see how well do they do in the last portion of the test. Well, they missed 1 here, they missed 1 there, and they missed 1 there. So they only 3 of their 11 misses came within this last section of sorts, and so that's fairly good. That's not a lot of questions, and they're evenly just evenly kind of distributed throughout the the different passages of things and such. And so that doesn't necessarily indicate that they were really compressed with time, and that was a factor for why they may not have scored as well and such. And so, but some students may come across where they maybe missed 11 questions, and then maybe 5 or 6 of those, maybe half those questions came in this last passage for the writing section. Well, that would be a very strong indicator that yes, time is of an issue of things. And so for that, for that student, one, need to really work on being able to diagnose and recognizing questions sooner and faster of things. Because the faster for which you can recognize and diagnose them, the quicker for which you should be able to maneuver through that one of things. And so instead of taking 10, 15 seconds to diagnose a question, maybe you're taking only 5 to 10 seconds. And so you can imagine 5 seconds being shaved off about how well that compounds through the test, and then allows you to have additional time here on the back end of things and being able to comfortably touch all these problems with time not being necessarily a prohibitor in that way of things. So here you can see the written language and the types of questions of things. And so backing up, if you're having difficulties with one area, you can go back and kind of focus on that. So, this particular student, you can see topics and coherence of things. And so they 5 of 8 correct. Well, we'll go back and we'll look here. Let's look at all the topic and coherence. So let's go, and what you may do is taking your test and saying, okay, well, I got this one right in conclusions. Let me go double check and see what that looked like. And you can see, well, where's TC1? And then you can find TC1 and go back and like right here and go back and look at that question and get a better, strong understanding of what that was testing and what that type of question looked like here. Transition words, like this individual here, 2 of 2 got correct. Okay, yeah, no, I'm sorry, transition words got 50% of those correct. So those are ones, if you only got 50% of that, you definitely want to go back and investigate and being able to do that. And again, so if you only have maybe 15, 20 minutes, you can pull this stuff out, look at your test, pick out a couple concepts, go back and look at those areas and try to really see how well, what parts of which you didn't necessarily understand, what did you miss and things, what about that makes that a transitions word sentence, and really try to understand, okay, yeah, this is what I missed, this is what I should have picked up on the things. And so in that way, you're being very intentional, again, very deliberate, and you're trying to make a very concerted effort of understanding exactly what that is and breaking this test down. The better that you can do that, the better in which you can move on and actually learn from your mistakes and being able to improve and not make them again the next time around and stuff. So within the math and moving on to this, you can see how this individual performed. We can see in the no calculator section for how they may have responded to those questions. The calculator section is seeing how they respond and how they've sort of broken up. And then in the cumulative level of things. And so again, you may choose to say if you're really weak in the no calculator section, well, let's kind of take and investigate and examine that just a little bit closer. Being able to see where the questions are coming at and where you're missing them of things. What I really suggest in the no calculator suggestion section, you should probably be getting the first 10 of these correct. The things, and so for any student who comes through the course, you should really try to make a perfect 10 of 10 within these first 10. And so evaluating those for where you're at and why you're missing those questions of things. And then looking and seeing as to how well you may have performed within the grid ends of too. And so better understanding what it is that you're not picking up on, that again, you should be seeing and recognizing within the questions and really helping you moving along with things. And so overall, you can see your progress, trying to pick your spots based on how well you're doing. Now, sometimes with the math, what I suggest, if you're really sort of struggling with the math, I always suggest to start with the areas where you're doing best at. And so if you're one you're kind of shaky on your math, this individual is performing 86% within the problem solving data analysis. Well, you already know and have a very strong foundation within that area. And so it's easier to tack on and to build onto the progress in that area and clean up the little bitty things within that. And then once you've got more time of things, you can go back and you can see this individual 55% within Passport to Advanced Math. You can go back and try to really learn some of the more fundamental concepts there and focus more time and attention on these areas and trying to build this up of things. And so if you're short on time, try to focus on the areas that what you're doing well with. If you have a longer set of time, maybe 45 minutes to an hour to look at something, then that's where you kind of want to pick out one of the weaker areas, pick out a couple different spots, and really try to focus on building those concepts up in those areas. And so again, every single thing is labeled. You can see the type, and so whether you're Heart of Algebra, Passport to Advanced Math, whatever it may be, and then also the question type, the subcodes for those. What we're really trying to focus on is understanding and diagnosing the questions. The better in which you can do that, the faster in which you can do that, the faster for which you can tackle that problem, the more confident for which you feel, because you then understand what they are testing, and it's no longer a mystery to you and such. So just kind of let you overview and see. You can see how it's all broken up. Again, we've gone through and labeled every single problem for you. You will also receive all the math solutions for the test for which you take. And so you can then identify and see what notes we have, how we would approach in solving it, the different options you may have used to solve it, and really trying to just equip you with as much information and the resources to help you learn and moving forward things. Okay, so this is kind of the overall, the sample student A SAT score report to things. You can see that we had Lindsay Lohan in our class. So I figured all of y'all would get a kick out of that. But then you're also going to receive, so as you continue, you're going to get one of these after each test and being able to go back. And I strongly encourage you to go back, look at your questions that you missed of things, even some that you knew that were a little bit more challenging, and even if you got it right, trying to better understand it and such. But as we continue to go along and getting with the test, we're going to give you this sort of report. And this one can see is the progression that you're having within the sections of things. And so looking at the reading individually, looking at the written language, and so you can see your progress there. Looking at them combined, the evidence base and reading and writing and things. And then just as well as the math and looking at it and the progress that's coming from within that section things. Well, you'll have the total score. You can see as to how well the progression is happening within that. Same thing with writing scores and trying to better understand your progress within the writing that exists. And then you will also see just as well as trying to, breaking down as a cumulative over all the tests for which you're taking of things. And so, what we're just trying to do is give you some very strong longitudinal data here that you can see in this particular individual, graphics and evidence over the course of 4 tests for which they had with us of things. Practice test, section tests, practice test number 2, practice test number 3. Graphics and evidence continues to be somewhat of a concern to them, only getting about 68% of those correct. Well, and what that should tell you as a person, if this was your score report, is that whenever you come across those are the ones that you should really try to maybe take a little bit slower, really trying to be maybe just a bit more thorough in your analysis and in your review of the question of things, and trying to really help you understand and how you, and just as well as your practice, what you need to do to try to be better at these sorts of questions of things. Also, the reading types of passages, and so those who are having to use the eject chord strategy, or you're having to pick a passage to skip of things, to help you accommodate and go through, this should really give you some good data to help you understand that. And you've got a fiction, social science, natural science, global conversation, and then paired passages, graphics, and old passages. And so really understanding your strengths and your weaknesses in this areas. And if you got one that you're a little bit more, maybe you're a little bit weaker in the global conversation than when it's, global conversation, and it's an old one or something like that. Well, then that might be one in the older passages. If you come across that combination, skip that passage, go on to the others, and then giving yourself the opportunity to come back to it when needed of sorts. And again, we really encourage you to skip the weaker ones, because you want to build confidence, you want to be able to feel good about it, and tackling the ones that you know quite well should help to really get you going down the right track when taking the test. Same thing with written and language, really giving you a thorough overview of what areas you should be looking at and trying to allocate your time again. Again, you can see the topic coherence with the students continues to be a little bit of a challenge for them, and being able to allocate your time for where you need to better understand your your misses. And then lastly, looking at the math here, you know, being able to understand how well you're performing within those, and then just as well as, you know, being able to see within the individual questions how well you're doing and what areas that you need to investigate a bit further. And you know, if you have an area that you're not doing so well with things, you can see this one, radical equations, is only still getting 50%, exponential equations, and then you really want to go and see what do those questions, one, look like, which again you can see how they're all categorized in the sample score report when you're looking through here the things, and then, you know, working on with the curriculum that we've given you and going back and reviewing the example problems and the homework and the practice of things, looking at our solutions and really understanding, you know, how do you tackle this? One, coming across it, how do you recognize this type of problem? And then two, how do you tackle that problem once you've done recognized and diagnosed it? Things. And so, well, I hope this information is useful for you. You know, these reports can be extremely helpful in your analysis of your own work and helping you understand how you're getting better. And again, the whole thing is about being very intentional and deliberate with your practice and allocating your time to areas for which you're doing extremely well and helping to build on them, but also helping you to allocate your time for areas of weakness and then giving you an idea, pointing you in that direction for which you need to work on studying and stuff. So thanks again, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact any of us. But best of luck in your efforts, and let us know how we may help you any further. Thanks. Bye.